Hello and welcome to this week's episode of John's Garage. This week we're coming right back up to modern times with this car. This has just newly been released on the Irish market, and this week we are driving a DS4, and this is in 1.5 litre HDI flavour, so in diesel. Some of you might think diesel's dead. I'd very much argue that it isn't. It's still an alternative fuel that a lot of people are going to rely on in the future. So cars like this are still going to be relatively popular going forward, okay? So let's jump right on into it. So right at the start of this week's video, folks, I want to say a huge big thank you to Slattery's garage in Puckane in County Tipperary for supplying me with this car. It literally just arrived in this morning. It arrived in at 9 o'clock. I am down here at 9:30. I'm the first person in the car, and it's a brand new 26 kilometers on the clock DS4 1.5 litre HDI. Now, Slattery's garage, for those of you who don't know about them, they're a family-run main Peugeot and I believe DS dealership. They've been in existence in the same family, been run for 50 years. So as far as I'm concerned, that says everything you want to know about the garage, okay? If the garage wasn't doing what it should be doing right, it wouldn't be here. It's as simple as that. If you ring up the garage, you're going to get speaking directly to the Slattery family. They'll be taking care of all your needs thereafter, and they run a very good workshop, very tight ship. And of course, don't forget to mention John's Garage. If you see this particular car, and if you ring about it or any car that I've featured, ring them, have a chat with them, say you saw it in John's Garage, and go and discuss your business with them thereafter, okay? Anyway, back to the car. Let's have a little look at the car. So, Gowan in Ireland is the main distributor for DS automobiles, Peugeot, Citroën and Opel as well, just to name but a few. And they've really been putting a huge effort into developing all the different brands. But DS is one that hasn't developed, but that's not through any fault of Gowan. I think DS went through a bit of an identity crisis soon after being launched. It was originally launched under Citroën and now has become its own standalone luxury brand. I would say for it, in comparison to what it is in the VAG group, in the Volkswagen Audi group, it's essentially the Audi range of cars, except it's the French version, okay? And that, I believe, possibly isn't a description which does it justice. But anyway, I'll move on. Let's talk about the car, okay? So, plenty of power. All models of this which come in Ireland are going to come with the 8-speed automatic. Other than that, it'll be a hybrid setup. So, you have 1.2 litre PureTech turbocharged petrol engine, again with the 8-speed auto. You can have it in hybrid flavour. That's going to come with the 1.6 litre turbocharged engine from Peugeot. Those more familiar with the 308 GTI will remember that engine. And it also comes with a hybrid pack, which can, in some model flavours, bring power up to 225 horsepower. This particular one we're featuring today is the 1.5 litre diesel, as I've mentioned already, and again that comes as standard with the 8-speed auto. There is no manual here, okay? Now, having said that, I've driven the 308, the new 308, Peugeot 308, and that video will be coming up soon, and that is actually in the same flavour as this, automatic paired to the diesel engine. And in that car, I found it was a real driver's car. It was really, really good to drive, really exciting. Really loved it, okay? Now, one of the things you can do, and you can do it in this car as well, you press this button down here, I can go into eco mode, I can go up and go into normal mode, and I can go up into sport mode, and it firms up the suspension, firms up the throttle response. You can see there it takes off a lot quicker, firms up the steering, really kind of gives the car a little bit of life. But I'm not going to lie to you, folks. I'm going to drop this down into normal mode, and the reason I'm going to do that is my feeling on this car, and I've driven a couple of kilometers in it, is that this car is more about relaxation, comfort, not sportiness, okay? Now, you can drive it hard and you can do all those things, and it's quite taut, it's quite agile, but it's more about being comfort and being co-setted and being surrounded by technology and avant-garde styling, and which it does incredibly well. So, what do I think sitting in this car? Well, it's full of incredible and lovely touches. It just really kind of moves things along in terms of actually being stylish and being functional, but also just being somewhere you actually just like to be. Now, for those of you who've gotten to go to very expensive cocktail bars before, you'll appreciate some of the features here. Those of you who haven't, try get there once, okay? It's worth it for the experience alone, okay? Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, there's beautiful touches here, okay? Really stylish. This here adjusts your vent up and down. it looks like a little button integrated in here. There's some lovely pattern detailing on the dash. The dashboard itself is Alcantara, the full width, and nice and down low as well. You have the start stop integrated here. Again, a lovely button for that. Nice diamond shape, and again, there's a pattern there and you can feel that pattern. Your handbrake button is integrated nicely here. Your screens are actually a beautiful part of the dashboard. Normally I don't like screens, they're plonked up here. They look like somebody's just thrown an iPad at the dashboard and they don't fit in very well. Whereas here, there's lovely integration of them, okay? Now, one of the other things is, as well as this, the DS brand, it stands out proud here. You also, over here, your electric window switches, they're beautifully integrated. Okay, so this car is all about the details. Your grab handle is down along here. Handle to open the door is down here. Again, everything feels very high quality. It's not just style over substance. There certainly feels to be a lot of substance here. The dashboard, for me, I'm more familiar with a lot of, we'll say, older cars, 60s, 70s cars, up to the 80s. For some reason, the dashboard feels very retro to me in terms of its construction. Now, what I mean by that is it's short back against the windscreen, and then it falls away at an angle. So it actually gives you a real sense of space in here, up in the driver's seat. And again, that goes back to me feeling that this is quite a comfortable car. Now, I used to, in my previous role, there was times when I'd be called upon to do a huge amount of driving. A lot of it could be late at night, a lot of it could be very early in the morning. And I could see myself being incredibly happy in a car like this. There's a huge amount of storage, okay, so there's plenty of storage for storing everything in. The seat is lovely and soft and it wraps around. You've got a great big storage bin here, a huge big thing. I can stick my whole arm in there. And again, it's air conditioned, so it can keep your drinks cool. But this is the kind of car, it's lovely soft suspension, nice bit of travel in it. I could see myself passing hours traveling the country in this car, traveling late at night, traveling when I'm tired, traveling when I'm hooked up on coffee and all that kind of thing, and just really being happy. Again, there's other nice touches here in the steering wheel. Again, we have that diamond pattern, but we also have a lovely, God, I don't know what it is. Is it marble? It looks a bit like marble to me. Okay, so we've kind of passed that this is a really comfortable, really stylish car. There's a number of features in the outside, but I'll go through those in a couple of minutes. But what I do want to talk about is one other thing. I did say it was an 8-speed automatic. I did say it was more aimed towards comfort and that kind of thing. And I'll be honest, that's where it's happiest in my opinion. But I'm just going to stick it into sport mode here. So we got sharper throttle responses. But then just behind the steering wheel here, we got our flappy paddle gearbox, okay? So what I can do with that is, if I really want to overtake and I want to take charge of the car, I can start dipping down the gears and I can floor it, and like the Peugeot 308 that I'll be featuring in a couple of weeks, this thing takes off and I can go up through the gears and all that, and I can take manual control. But been really honest with it, I don't think there's necessarily a need for that. And you can say straight away, I'm dropping back here, I want this in normal mode. This car is more about traveling in than driving, okay? Now, why is that? Some of you are going to read reviews or listen to reviews, and this isn't a dig at anybody in particular, seems to be common, and you're going to hear, oh, it's not a great driver's car. But I'd argue with you, what is a great driver's car? You know, I'm not going to be taking this in a racetrack when I'm up early in the morning traveling the country and I just want to get there in comfort. That's what I want to do, is I want to get there in comfort. I don't care that it doesn't handle like a race car. Not saying it doesn't handle well, it handles brilliantly, but it handles comfortably, okay? So it gets me to where I want to go. Now, one of the other things I want to address with this, and I'd said it in the DS4 video as well, parts, future reliability and things like that. Everything under the skin of this is conventional. It's conventional suspension, conventional engine, conventional electronics, and it's also shared across the range with Stellantis other models in the Stellantis range. So going forward, there should be no issue with keeping these cars on the road. Because I know oftentimes when a new brand launches or an unfamiliar brand launches, there's always the question of, will I be able to get parts for that in a couple of years? But with this, yeah, everything's standard, everything's conventional. It shouldn't be an issue really. Now, when I walked up to this car, it was parked beside a Peugeot 3008, a new one. And one of the things that struck me was the high bonnet line. This was almost the same height as the bonnet in the 3008. Now, this is based on the 308, I should say. It's all shares a similar platform. But what was really chopped down was the roof. And I kind of looked at it and I said, this is going to be a bit tight when I sit in. And I'm not going to lie to you folks, there's actually loads of room in here. I have plenty of headroom. you're sitting down, it's weird. It feels like a sports car, and that drop-away dash, I think, helps with that. It feels like a sports car when you sit into it, but it drives. It's how can I say? It's really comfortable to be in. It's quite spacious. The brighter material helps with that as well. It gives that sense of airiness and sense of comfort. And I really have to say, I'm really impressed with it. Brakes are sharp. Suspension, as I say, is nice and soft. Build quality, there is no squeaks or rattles here. I'd fully expect that on a brand new car. As I said, it was just dropped off this morning. I'd fully expect that. But what really makes this car nice is it's so comfortable, and it's all those nice touches. Now, one bugbear I have, and I think it just requires me to spend a bit more time getting familiar with cars like this, is this toggle switch for the gearbox. I personally prefer a lever, something I can pull back. I've experienced it in this, I've experienced it in the 308, I've also experienced it in a Honda Kona, and I'm just not a massive fan of it. I'll just say that, okay? Just not a huge fan of it. I prefer the stick, I prefer being able to pull back and shift. Another general bugbear I have is with screens, although I have to say, the Stellantis setup in the Peugeot and in the DS, where I've experienced it, I won't talk about any other model, is improving things, okay? It is easier to get the buttons, it is easier to feel things, and there is a little bit of reaction. So when you actually press the button, there's a noise, okay? So you know you've pressed it, okay? There's a little click in the background. But one thing I just find hard is on these country roads when we're bouncing along, it's just sometimes your finger can hit the wrong button. That's just a personal bugbear. But the other thing I will say is you can mirror your phone screen onto this. You can adjust here. We can make it, maybe we can just focus on the climate controls. We can make those nice and big. We can focus on the radio. We can make that nice and big, and we can move things around. And it is a nice setup in that regard. Other than that, rear seat space, huge. You can fit your 2 kids in there. You can fit 2 or 3 adults in there, whatever you want. View out the rear window is tight, as it is in every modern car. There is nothing different in that regard, but you do have a really good reversing camera and a nice big screen to go along with it. So yeah, what can I say? I absolutely love it. It's a really nice car. As I said, it's all about style. There's a lot of function in it as well, so it's not just style over substance, but it's different. That's what I like. It's not just looking at the usual competitors from Japan or Germany or even America going and looking at Ford. It is actually a really nice car for someone who appreciates something different. Now, back in the day, we would have said this was comparable to the likes of Saab. Nowadays, I suppose it's always the German offerings. I'm not going to name names here, but I personally would rate this higher than them. I know a lot of you will say, oh, no, they're not, it's not. That's just my own personal opinion. I think this is a nicer car. I think the French cars in general are nicer, but I appreciate that is a personal opinion, okay? So I'm not trying to sell that to anybody. It's just the way I am. I like something that's different. I like something with a few quirks to keep me entertained, but I also like something that's really comfortable, that doesn't feel like I'm sitting on a wooden board and racing around a track in it. This, I'm telling you folks, I could spend the entire day driving this car and get out and feel really fresh and have no worries about driving it anywhere. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous car. It looks gorgeous on the outside. It looks gorgeous on the inside. It feels gorgeous. As I say, the material quality is quite high. We have nice seats that are very comfortable, very grippy. And yeah, listen, thanks very much for coming along. And I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And don't forget, folks, if you haven't subscribed, to do so please now. It would be great if you could subscribe to the channel. So thank you very much. We'll see you again next week, folks. Bye bye.